This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
Couldn't join us yesterday, is going to join us today, usually with us every Monday, but making up that visit from yesterday, Paul Finebaum, and he's with us thanks to our friends at Craneworks.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah, the big dog's got it.
Paul Finebaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Finebaum.
Paul, we were just talking about voting in polls and some of the issues that we have with it. I know you saw the coaches poll that came out yesterday, Texas #1, but what's something that you feel like should be improved on, can be improved on with just how teams are voted on, where teams are placed in polls, either preseason, during the season, or at the end of the season?
I think my overall feeling on this, Cole, is that these polls don't matter anymore, but they once did. So why don't they matter now? Because we have a committee that looks into it and starts meeting in late October. The reason why they used to matter is that they set the template, and once you get in the polls at a certain position, you can't get out. And Cole, you know where I'm going here. You go back to the famous 2004 Auburn team, which started low and got up, I think once they were tied for number 2, but the number 1 and 2 team in the preseason were USC and Oklahoma, and they never left because pollsters are old-fashioned. They don't really watch the games like an analyst like you guys do. And I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to because I really don't care. Most of them have no earthly idea what they're doing, and that would include myself. If I was voting, if you're covering a team, how can you possibly know what's going on the West Coast or the East Coast if you're in the opposite side of the country? And now, I mean, unless you want to stay up all night and go through film.
Who doesn't want to do that except for Cole? So Cole
Well, yeah.
should be he should be the sole pollster, I think, because he's the only person I know that would literally do that. Looking at the poll yesterday, Paul, it's kind of amazing to me how egregious it is. Ohio State, with all their personnel lost, they returned less than 50% of their production from a year ago, and yet they sit there at number 2, ahead of Penn State, who has everybody back, ahead of Clemson, who has everybody back, and ahead of Notre Dame, that has an awful lot of people back, and Georgia, who's got a decent amount back as well. So help me understand how Ohio State is being given this ticket to the party when really they have more answers than there are more questions than answers right now.
I think the biggest reason is August 30th at the Shoe. And pollsters and these are coaches here, so let me be honest. They know even less than the broadcasters because they have less time. I mean, if you're coaching at SMU or Alabama or Southern Cal, you could really care less about what's going on elsewhere other than your next opponent. You might pay attention to some of the teams on your schedule. So Ohio State's in there based on what happened last year, obviously, based on what's about to happen. Pollsters, coaches, or broadcasters tend to gravitate toward matchups. And this game, the second we started thinking about it as we walked out of the Cotton Bowl last year, was going to be a 1 versus 2 game. You're right. Penn State very easily could be number 1. Notre Dame could be 1 or 2. You could argue that Clemson could be, but the biases remain. And I think you start, and I don't know exactly even know where it starts, but I blame everyone, including ESPN and the magazines. It starts setting a template, and you get a coach who walks in and his sports guy says, "Okay, let's fill out the ballot." He goes, "What's everybody else saying?" And that's how it happens.
Paul Finebaum joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline with us every week, thanks to Craneworks. Is it becoming a little bit too much for Texas? Is this team ready to handle the hype, the pressure, the build-up, the noise about what they possibly are going to be this season?
I mean, it's easy to say that, and it's easy to point to all the people lost, especially on the lines. But I think the fact that they have been so good for a couple of years. They've recruited well. They've done well in almost every area. And I think Sarkisian brought some of this on by talking about his roster. So the one thing we all react to it. Everybody gets a little more interested when we see that first poll, and I think we'll be more interested a couple of weeks from now whenever the AP poll comes out because it has more credibility. But I think in Texas's case, they just have gotten there by virtue of being the team that's been to the playoffs the last 2 years. Cole, I can talk in circles for the rest of this time, but I know you have other guests. But it's a perception. And yesterday was the first time that Alabama didn't get the benefit of the doubt. That Alabama, and somebody said to me yesterday, where would Alabama be with the exact same roster and Nick Saban as coach?
At worst, one. But
yeah,
what do I know?
Exactly.
The thing that's amazing to me is Paul Clemson has won multiple national championships in the last decade. I know it's been some time since 2018 since they won the last one. But they have everybody back off a playoff run a year ago. They won the ACC a year ago in a down year. And it feels like their best is going to be right there this year, and yet they sit there at 6. How is that justifiable?
Well, a couple of things. It's really their first game last year. I don't think has left a lot of people's mind when they were just ramsacked by Georgia. Losing at home against South Carolina also didn't help. They didn't get as much credit as maybe they deserve for pulling off that win against SMU. And their playoff game against Texas was okay. On a day of multiple blowouts, it was at least interesting. And I think there's also a bias against Dabo Swinney right now. Instead of getting credit, which I know you give him, and I've come around. I was one of those critics of Dabo a couple of years ago, as almost everyone was. He has just shut the noise out and has built this roster back to where it's one of the better ones in college football. So I think you add in all those things and people go, well, I can't put them ahead of Georgia because they lost to Georgia. I can't put them ahead of this team. I can't put them ahead of that team, and that's how they end up where they are.
Paul, I'm interested to ask you going into this season because you just brought up Dabo and then referenced Clemson. And it used to be we would talk about Nick Saban or Urban Meyer and say, well, that team's always going to have the advantage. How many teams in college football right now would you just place ahead of other teams that you viewed close to them based on coaching?
I think that does factor into it. But to me, and I try to examine myself when I talk about Dabo Swinney because he was so easy to count out. And by the way, we weren't counting him out as a good coach. We weren't counting him out as a good program. We were counting him out as that successor to the Saban dynasty, so to speak, because they did slip. They're back where they were really 8 or 9 years ago, and for a lot of reasons, great defense, but also a difference maker at quarterback.
Paul, we always appreciate the time. Always great stuff. Thanks for hopping on, making up yesterday's visit. We'll catch up again next week.
Thank you, Cole. Enjoyed it.
There you go. Paul Finebaum joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. We'll get to a break, come back with SMU head coach Rhett Lashley next right here on Jocks.
Go inside Jocks 94.5 on Jocks TV. Morning Jocks, Mac and Cube, and Three-Man Front video simulcasts are presented by Bill Smith Buick GMC and Game Day Men's Health. Watch on the Jocks mobile app and YouTube by searching Jocks 94.5 TV.